I'm hearing this year is that the interaction has been really welcome, right? Does everybody agree with that? The sharing of ideas, not just a panel telling you what works. The idea that it's not one size fits all, that there are great ideas that come from these sessions that you can, like reading a book, you take the best pieces for yourself, and then we're also hearing just some wonderful ideas and suggestions from all of you too. So let's keep that going here this morning. One of the things that Corey, where's Corey Meyer? Corey, you said it this morning, right? What was your statement about this year? Right, the amount of strategy talk that's going on, right? And I mean, at this point in the evolution of rate and all of these agents, that's what it's about. How do we go deeper? How do we get really good? How do we make everything we're doing better? So we'll start with Christina here this morning. Lead conversion was the topic yesterday, just really getting the best out of that whole process. And do you have a mic? Should be 3 mics up here. Yes, no? Okay. Okay, so if you can start by talking about the conversations that you guys had in your group.
So the conversations, Justin had, his team had an amazing process where they use Follow Up Boss. Now, how much into depth do you want me to get into?
Well, we got about 15 minutes each.
Okay.
So look over whatever all we're going to talk about, and let's kind of time it that way with questions.
So basically, as we all know in this room, speed to lead is the number one greatest thing. Second would be, what is your process? And has it been broken down for your ISAs? So for example, once a lead comes in, is there a contact? Did they have a voice-to-voice or text or message, or did they not? When you have a flow chart for them, then they know how to navigate through that process and what to do with that. So for example, what we do is if there's no email, no phone, no contact, but that lead came in, we'll put them on a 10-day drip campaign and then continue to follow up once every month for 6 months. Then if no response, then we break that down to every 3 months for the next following 6 months to 12 months. And so if there is contact, then we put them on an active campaign for sellers or active campaign for buyers. Now, my question is, does anybody have a CRM program where you're able to distinguish that? Buyer, seller, lead? Is it active? What was the lead source? And so that would be the primary things. And lastly, if there has been contact, we'll basically call them within the first 5 minutes response. And if no answer, there's a follow-up, then a text message, then an email up to 5 times for the next few days.
Okay, very good. Any comments, questions, thoughts on that before we move on to the next part? You have more to talk about, or is that basically in a nutshell?
I'm on high D, so I'm keeping it short and sweet. If you guys have questions, we have flow charts that we can share with you. That's been we've broken it down to the T so that when an ISA comes in, they know exactly what to do with that lead source. If it's a Vulcan expired, if it's a FISBO, if it's one of our sign calls. So they know exactly how to navigate through that, what to do with that lead, how many times do they touch that client, and then on their dashboard, we make sure that they're held accountable to making sure the dashboard's cleaned out so that at one point in time, Lance, I think our ISAs had 500 contacts in one dashboard. That's just impossible for anyone to manage, right? And so we got them to clean that out, and then they're down to probably 200 leads a day that they have to go through.
Okay. Any questions, suggestions, comments of how you take care of that, how you provide accountability or work through those leads and what happens to them? We're going to get to that here, but we good? Okay. All right, Matt, you were with the inimitable Rick Brankus yesterday, and I was privy to some of the things you guys were talking to. It was really, really quite productive. So
yeah, Rick,
share that with
Rick
us.
did a great job.
Yeah, he did. So tell us what you guys learned.
So my secret weapon is hanging out in this room. And everything that we do is just copied from people who've done really great things, and we just put it in place. So I've got an imperfect number. Joe and I were talking about this. It's not a good number, but it's a number, and it's something that we can track. It's number of clients we signed by the number of leads that we have. So last year, We had like 1,400 leads a month, and we were signing about 85 clients a month. So it was about a 5% conversion rate from total number of leads to total number of clients. This year, we're signing about 115 clients a month, and we're buying just 940 leads. So our total number of clients have gone up significantly. Our lead cost has come down, and our conversion rate went from 5% to 12% in a matter of a year. And that was a massive jump. And so there was three things that we did that kind of solved the three, I think, biggest problems with lead conversion. The first one Christina just hit on is speed to lead. So we know that that's number one. The second one was how many times does your lead get called? So the number of calls, the number of contacts per lead was the other big problem. And then the last problem, I think, is agents having entitlement and hoarding leads and just accepting so many and just only picking off the low-hanging fruit and not working the other ones hard enough. So those were the three big problems we identified. And I'll just go into how we worked on all three. So speed to lead. What I implemented, I just copied Rob Dukansky. I hired 2 buyer ISAs. I finally decided to do that. And I don't know why I fought it for so long. But what we did is the lead comes in, whatever agent can claim it first claims it. And at the same time, that same lead goes to an ISA. The agent sends a text message and calls in the first 5 minutes. The ISA sends a text message and calls in the first 5 minutes. So we've got 4 contact attempts in the first 5 minutes. And I copied that from what Rob was doing. He has 2 ISAs calling and texting the same lead immediately. And what I sat down and met his ISAs and kind of talked to them about it. And they said, yeah, they think that 2 different companies are calling. And really, it's just the number of contacts you can make quickly. And that I think has driven our conversion way up. The second thing is leads don't get called enough times. I copied a system from Tim Heil, which he calls his Hopper system. Zillow will say, hey, you need to contact a lead 9 times in the first day. We could say to our agents, hey, call and contact this lead 9 times in day 1. How many will actually do that? 0. Okay, so rather than just keep talking about the same thing until I'm blue in the face and wishing it was different, we decided to implement Tim Heil's system. And what it does is the agent and the ISA still get the lead at the same time. The ISA is calling, the agent's calling. The agent has until 10 a.m. tomorrow to make physical contact, to get a text message back, to speak with the lead. If we look in the CRM, and I have a lead manager, and every day at 10 a.m. he looks at the 30 or 40 leads we got yesterday and sees if we have notes that they actually spoke with or got a text back from that lead. If they didn't get a contact made, the lead gets pulled away from the agent. So if we got $1 million lead, how many times do you think that agent would call before they'd lose it tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Hopefully a lot, maybe just once, maybe 0 if they just don't care. But the thought is we're designing a system that would give them urgency to knowing, like that takeaway is a big thing. I always used to feel like my agents, if I took something from them, would quit. But what happened is we started to convert way more and they're making more money. So that's how that Hopper system works. And so when the lead gets taken away, and what it is, it's 50%. So and this is just real. Every single day I see, hey, we had 17 leads contacted yesterday. We had 18 leads that went into the Hopper. So half of my leads are getting contacted within the first 24 hours. And the other half go into this bucket. Any agent who has 0 past due opportunities can rent out the buckets. So I've got 38 agents. They're all hungry. Not all of them. Some of them are very hungry. And the ones who are really hungry come in every day and say, hey, I want the Hopper list, the last 7-day seller leads. Can I rent that list out? They rent it today. They mojo through it. So now what the system does, it makes every lead get called every day. They'll rent out lists that are 3-month-old lists. They'll rent out lists that are 6-month-old lists. But in the first 90 days, these leads are just getting, as Rob said, assaulted. And yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
What do you mean rent it out?
check it out. You can check the list out. You get it for today, and then it's taken out of your database tomorrow. Yeah, and then if you make contact with one and it's a good lead, you pull it out of that list and put it in your database. Yeah.
So how do you keep, I don't, this is going to sound so kindergartenish, but how, I feel like this is so infantile question, but it's, how do you keep from them just saying, contacted them, had a good conversation, and they keep it. Now they're back to hoarding.
Yeah, that's problem number 3. So what we did, and that's great, it's a great segue. The problem number 3 is hoarding. So I had agents that would have like 400 leads in their database. How could they possibly be keeping in touch with 400 people? They weren't, right? So this again was taken from Tim Heil. We just got a cap. You can only have 100 active opportunities. So if you want to hoard 100, great. But as soon as you get to 101, you're taken off the ability to get new leads until you get back under 100.
Who's doing all that? I mean, that's a lot of. Right. So who's managing that?
Yeah. So Bob was asking who's managing that. I have one guy who's my director of lead gen, and he's got a virtual assistant. So the two of them are. It's labor-intensive work. Every day you got to look at 30 or 40 leads and look in the notes. And if they were spoken with, you have to analyze, was it spoken with or not? And then if not, it goes in this bucket.
Can we ask salaries?
Yeah, so Bob's asking salaries. So my director of lead gen is earning $50,000, and his virtual assistant is earning, I think, $700 a month. No commission or bonuses. It's just straight salary.
Okay, Mark had a question over here.
Thank you. You said each agent has 100 active leads. How do you define active? How do you define that?
No, they just have 100. They get 100. So, but we don't count a listing agreement against them. We don't count a buyer agency against them. We don't count a active contingent contract or closed client. It's only leads that you get 100. That's it. And so after 100, you got to move them. If you got 120, great. Okay, you can hold on to 120. You just don't get anything new until you take your worst 20 and put them in the bucket.
Tara right here, Tara Limbird.
How did you say you're determining which agents can rent out the list?
If you have 0 past due calls to make. So agents in your CRM, they were supposed to call 15 people yesterday. They didn't. Well, for that person who has 15 calls to make from yesterday, they can't rent out a list. In fact, they don't get new leads until they get down to 0.
Okay, Mark.
Hey, will you speak to leads that come in after your quote-unquote business hours, and how does that get managed? And go back to you, and for those of you that are coming, would you talk to that if you're doing it?
Yeah, Rob Dukansky last night was saying that if a lead comes in at 11, his ISA calls at 11 p.m. And I took a note of that, and so Mark, my new policy is if a lead comes in at 11 p.m., we're calling. We used to say, I think we got a cutoff of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., but Rob kind of changed my attitude on that yesterday.
Okay. Chip Hodgkins.
So getting into the details, sorry about this, but if they're going to delve down into your Hopper system, how are they getting into it? Are you giving them the passcode so they can get into the system? And then if they do, then how do you manage that?
So we just upload the list, whatever list they ask for, into Mojo. And then the next day, we delete that list out of their Mojo account.
I thought you moved it into their bucket and then back out.
We use Infusionsoft as our CRM. I don't know that I would recommend starting that, but
Quick,
Jay,
just a quick comment. So we do something similar. We're on Sync, Commissions Inc. We limit the leads to 30 leads, 10 A's and 20 B's. We found that anything over that, they go crazy. No C's. Everything stays. Well, Sync has the pond system, so you can actually dump everything in the pond. They have access to the pond. You can split the ponds by price points, and you can have agents on multiple ponds if you want to. And it automatically pushes this to Mojo same way. You can actually pick a list, push it to Mojo and call. But essentially, we had them ABC, no C leads, only A's and B's on their pipeline, and we do an audit pretty much every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, we'll go through each one's pipeline and we clean it up.
yeah. So Jay got them down to 30. I wanted them at 50, but there was a negotiation. Right?
That's awesome. And I can tell you that our number one agent has 17 leads in her database. So she's so focused on now business, on A buyers, that she doesn't want to deal with anyone else. She goes in the pond and does her search, and she can tell which one's going to be the one, and then she just keeps the ones that she's going to work now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my thought on that would be that the fewer they have in the minds of the other agents, the more good possibilities might be in the pond, right? So how do you arrive at 100?
I arrived at 100 with a conversation with them, and just asking them what they thought was fair. And I'll give you some rationale if anybody's thinking about, hey, my agents would kind of revolt over this idea. That was my fear. I didn't want to lose people over this, implementing this system. Tim described it beautifully. He said, don't put crap in your database. Don't put crap in your follow-up system, because then you'll have no motivation to call it, because there'll be these people in there you just don't want to call. It'll take your motivation away. So he said, if you only keep the gold in your personal database, you'll be motivated to call it and you'll pull more deals out of it. And I had to have like a lot of one-on-one conversations with agents who were having trouble with it, and just say, hey, you've got to trust me.
And you find that the 100 has been the right number to keep them interested in going back to the database. That would be my concern, is that they feel like we've all got 100 and there's nothing left.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we've got 50,000 people in our pond. So, and it's only 38 times 100, it's only 3,800 are protected.
Okay.
Do they have free reign to select what type of lead source it is? Because in our ISAs don't, they get to get a little bit of everything, and what they do with that is on them.
Like, does my agent get to decide what lead to take?
For example, Vulcan or Spokio or Mojo, call-ins, how do your agents, do they distinguish the leads and they get to pick that? Or in that pond, they just get a list and they have to figure out who they're going to call?
Yeah, we don't distinguish it. The pond is either just divided into seller or buyer. But they can go into Vulcan and say, hey, I'll call expireds or I'll call for sale by owners. But the pond is just whatever lump of seller leads we have and whatever lump of buyer leads we have.
Are the leads identified as to where they came from?
Yeah, the source is on all of them.
Sources there. Okay.
All right, appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions? Got a question back there from Valerie Hunter Kelly?
So just a comment, because we do the same thing also. And so we gave them the option. Our coach said, give them the option. They can't have any more than 100. But I said, that doesn't mean you have to take 100. If you only feel you can do 30, then only have 30. And what's amazing, except for the hoarder on the group, most of them will take less than that. They can't handle 100 leads, even keeping up with those. So I agree with you. That one that has 17, that makes sense why that person is doing more, because most of us just can't even, bury high D's and I's. 100 is a lot to keep handling, but it wasn't a pushback at all. But agents were like taking less than the 100. And then if they get over that, then we just tell them, you have 24 hours to get it back under 100. And if you don't, we're just going to pick the top ones. We're just going to go down the list and say, hey, you're over 20, we're going to move 20. So they keep it down because they want to choose. They don't want me moving those.
That's intense.
Yes, yeah.
You could move some good sales out of that pipeline.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so they keep it.
Yeah, so they keep it down. That's a good penalty. Yeah, most of our folks are about 45. But there were people who were definitely in the 300 to 400 lead range, and when we put the cap on it, they had to get down.
Is the definition of a crap lead expand beyond bad phone number, bad email address?
No, I think the definition is one that psychically takes your energy away.
Can't get there from here. Emmanuel De Jesus.
So I just wanted to be clear. So when you say 100 leads, it's categorized as leads. So they still have buyers in there that they're working with. They still have sellers that are in there that they're working with above 100. It's just the lead.
Yeah, if they signed an agency agreement, it doesn't count against them.
All right.
Because I didn't want to make a penalty for signing a bunch of buyer agencies. I want to reward that kind of activity.
Got to be some value associated with the leadership of taking time to have one-on-ones with the agents and make sure that you got buy-in too, which I think is a real takeaway for me.
Yeah, I started with, of course, the influencers and said, hey, before I talk about the team, I want to get your input.
It's good leadership, Matt.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That was a lot.
I was, it was a lot, yeah. That didn't mean, that wasn't intended to say there wasn't enough there. But I said, yeah, diva. One of the things I heard in that session yesterday was, and just to reiterate, and you touched on it, but the importance of that speed to lead. And I mean, a text isn't bad, but having just gone through selling my home as the consumer, I thought getting a text was what I wanted because that would be less rude than just calling me. And I realized, no, just call me. And that's me. But I think what Dukansky's got going is do both, text and call, and then text and call. But speed to lead. And that whole point that when someone's present, psychologically present, interested in your business and have Googled you, it's a miracle. Right? I mean, every other agent in the market is getting found through a random real estate search.
Yeah, that's a good point. We talked about this yesterday. So the top converter on my team calls the new lead a minimum of 5 times from the same phone number in day one. And he swears, he's like, when they see the 5th missed call from my number, they are so curious.
So don't leave a message?
He leaves a message, call 1, and then no more messages. Otherwise, he looks like a stalker girlfriend.
And I think if the technology's
boyfriend.
out there, right? If the technology's out there, the call display should be Matt O'Neill on the call display. I mean, we're talking about it. I asked everybody yesterday. Nobody knew, right? We had that conversation. But, you know, there's so much marketing out there for your name, and there's so much respect for the name, that the difference between that and just a number, because they might have filled a form and they may not even know that that's coming from you. It could be from some other.
So VoicePad, which is here, the guy who created it, Randy Standard, is a former AT&T muckety-muck who knows his stuff. So we can get to VoicePad, who's their rep is here, or partner, and then Randy can help get that accomplished.
It's the one guy I should have asked, I guess. Yeah. Probably, yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Bob. And Matt, thank you. Nice job. Fred Holmes comes with some video and pictures to help us through this. So tell us about your session yesterday, please.
Okay, just a little context on the 3 little tidbits I've been asked to share. We've been on about a 2-year journey just to get a little better reporting and especially financial clarity in our business. And what we uncovered was just frightening and sickening, just the weaknesses and the waste and the utter neglect that we had was just awful. Am I dead again? Okay. Yeah, it was just awful. So there were so many opportunities to make some changes, and to find more opportunity in what we were already doing. It was just there and just being wasted. So we just realized that we're a little bit like the average wage earner in America. They're like 2 paychecks away from bankruptcy. And our business was, we think, just a little bit precarious that way. And so it really worried us if there was any kind of a change, a shift, or significant correction or anything like that, could we even survive? So doing this has really helped us to, I think, put ourselves on a little better footing. And so it's all about just getting more. This conversion is the whole thing that's going to make more of this possible, I think. So what this has allowed us to do is to make some adjustments in our marketing budget, principally around Zillow. It's going to annualized, it's going to save us around $400,000 straight to our bottom line. And in the course of cutting $400,000 from that, it looks like this year right now we're actually ahead of pace to add 175 units in the course of that. So our scare was cut back on lead generation and there goes the business. Instead, the business is going to grow with it. But it's just about, our theme for 2019, it's not about seizing the day, it's about squeezing the day and just getting more out of everything we're doing. So that kind of folds into then lead conversion. So we got this stuff coming in. If we can get more out of it, we don't need more of it, we just need more out of what we've got. And so that's what we've been working on very hard. So share a couple of things with you here then. One of them is technology. The other two are just a little bit about accountability, I think, is what we really have here. So just a little more revenue out of the opportunities we have. We believe our ISAs are our most valuable people on the team. Wouldn't you agree? Hour per hour, they can generate more dollars for you than just about anybody. So they're very important to us. So we've given them, first of all, people leverage. So we gave them VAs to help them. So instead of having them in there managing the database and doing lots of mundane tasks, we've got VAs to handle a lot of those mundane tasks for them. We want them on the phone, making friends, and setting appointments. So that just frees up more of their time to do that. But then we also helped them with some technology leverage. So first thing then I would share is that we're using Agent Legend. How many are using Agent Legend? Some are at this point. Okay, so if you're not familiar with it, has some similarities to Structurally in that it will deliver text messages to people or to a whole group of people. It doesn't have any AI part of it, the component to it. So it's just delivering these. And so what we've done is build out a 3-year plan of text messages. So this was inspired by Zillow. So we were at one of their small meetings last year, and the person that is teeing up all of their leads, basically they're not doing outbound calling, they're texting these people. And when someone responds to it, then a live person gets on there with them, starts texting with them, and tries to find a time when they will speak on the phone. And so that's what our entire 3-year campaign and Agent Legend is designed to do. It's just texting until they respond. We're going to humanize text at that point, and we're going to reach out. The ISAs can do it in the Agent Legend app right on their phone. So they're immediately texting them back, and they're getting them on the phone as a result of that. Hundreds and hundreds of responses to that, more than if we were phoning them. So we still phone them, but this other text, it's taken all this off the plates of the ISAs. So it's automated it, more contacts, and as a result, more appointments are being made. So the other 2 things I want to share with you are more tools for herding cats, cat herding tools. Okay, so we know that there is a little bit of waste with our agents sometimes. Okay, we've got great agents. We have great agents, but there's times when there may be some waste involved with their actions, and some of the things that my predecessors here have mentioned is just trying to make sure they're efficient with what they're doing. So here's what we've done. We've been very transparent about our finances. They know exactly what it cost us to set an appointment for them. They know what it cost for a closing through Zillow. For instance, our closing cost for a Zillow lead was $3,900. If you don't know your closing cost, you should know how much it costs to close the lead. So they realize we're spending a lot of money. They care about that. They don't care about that as much as I do. So then what we've put into place are some protocols, and working as Matt did, working with our agents, We got them to agree to what these protocols would be, and we got them to agree to call them laws. These are laws. We do not break the law. They agreed to all of these. So let me show you a couple of them. If I can get that on the screen, show you a couple of things. Okay. All right, very good. So here just for instance with our sink, we just broke it out in minute detail about what would have to happen to a sink, a Commission Zinc lead, the things that would have to be done just in detail. And we're asking them to do all these, and they are agreeing to do all of these things. Okay, so they don't break the law. So, just things like the stages. We have to have all the stages where they qualify or the hot. What stage are they at? How are they in the pipeline? What's all of that about? Have they sent it to the lender? All of those kind of things have to be done. So the question would be, how do we know they are doing this? Right, a lot of work to that. So we've hired a company called ERS, and ERS is helping us with that. That's Expert Realty Services. So they have VAs that are doing this for other teams. Here's one of our agents, and so this is how he has done in keeping the law, basically, for the week. And so they're scored on this. Are they doing it or not? For instance, things like, do they have an e-alert? Something as simple as that, they're going to check, and he's got one that doesn't have an e-alert. You see that over there, one that doesn't have an e-alert. So just every little thing about it so that these leads are cared for very, very well. So they're watching all those things for us. As with other laws, some are misdemeanors and some are first-degree murder. And so we treat them that way as well. So if some things aren't done, if any of them are broken, then the sales manager speaks with them about it. And if it doesn't happen, if it happens again, they speak again, and eventually they will have to. Thank you, Jeff.
Does that constitute a misdemeanor?
At some point, we'll actually just have some sort of a program for them to help them get back on track. And they've also decided on the consequences. Laws have consequences, and they decided themselves on the consequences. I went out of the room. They decided on the consequences, and so the ultimate consequence is even losing your leads for a week. They don't get any leads for a week, so they decide that's fair if they're not taking care of things. So what we do with this is at a one-on-one, we refer to those as results meetings. So we're just going to look at your results this week. If results are fine, no problem. If results aren't good, then we have their permission to dig in and figure out why they didn't get the results that they had decided they wanted for the week. So they don't feel micromanaged at all. They agree to all these things. They do the things that they want to do. And all we're doing is trying to help them do it because we know they will make more money as a result of that and they'll reach their goals. So they have welcomed this amount of accountability. If you can get your agents to agree to that, you're way ahead, and you just have to have someone else help them to make sure they're not missing any details. And that's the way they're looking at this. They are embracing this and liking this. They feel like this is helping them to do what they need to do to make more money. And as a result of taking better care of the leads, then things are just converting better. That's all it's about. So just as simple as that. Okay.
Very interesting, and I'm sure there are lots of questions. Okay, Tammy, go ahead.
What we will do, these slides, if anybody wants them, we'll share them with Jamila and just ask Jamila and she'll give them to you.
Perfect, thank you.
My question would be, how much time does it take out of their day to do this, to keep track?
No, it's very simple. No, it really does. I mean, all they're doing really, they're not keeping track of things. They're just doing what they should do. They're just handling leads, and I'm sure everyone else is asking them to do certain things. Jeff, man, everyone else is.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay. So, but how is it recorded? Who's recording it? How is it?
This, what you're seeing on the screen right now?
Yeah.
This is ERS that's looking into all this. This is a report we get once a week. I don't look at this report, but sales managers look at this report, and they're just making sure that things are happening is all.
Bob?
So it's a VA, what's the cost? It's a VA service, so just kind of an hourly thing. We're spending about $1,500 a month for that. I don't know how to turn those off, I'm sorry. So at $1,500 a month, we feel we can find enough waste to take care of that and far more. That's what's happening.
Thoughts or comments? Anybody?
We've got 10 agents. Mhm.
So the question comes down to a lot of those things. Are they? So the VA is going into, for instance, like the Trello card and the reporting hours of calling. So they're filing that somewhere, and then the VA is just going in and confirming. Or like you have an audit time, the 6.25 hours of dial time. Is that Mojo dialing time, or is that how? I mean, is it just the VA's jumping around to a bunch of systems to check on everything?
There is something they would have to report a little bit of their personal activity. Yeah.
Okay. So they're reporting like on Trello, and then the VA just goes through and just double checks that has been done.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. So Trello is another part of this. If you're not using Trello, makes it very easy for our agents to do things, work with their ISAs, and send things back and forth. So ISA is working the lead all the way through. It doesn't go back. The agents are not. We're just not letting the agents do that. So we have great agents, but that's not their strong suit. So the ISAs are handling all that.
What are the consequences?
Ultimately, then there might be a week with no leads.
And between 0 and week with no leads?
Yeah, that's where we just have a meeting to help remediate a little bit of the issue. And
Performance review.
yeah, so I guess the very first stage would be just if when we get the email from ERS, there's something missing, the sales manager reaches out, they have 24 hours to make that correction. It's usually simple stuff. They're all getting on board with it. There's a learning curve. They were missing a few things, a lot of things the first few weeks, and everything's going good now.
Okay.
But we're just excited about the kind of waste that we've uncovered, and this is just buttoning that up. It is saving a lot of money and just getting more conversions.
Ron Cedillo? We've got a mic, Ron.
Did your cost per Zillow lead go down because of this?
So we were one of the 1% they tell us of their spenders, and so our Zillow spend went down from $21,000 a month to 0.
Good job.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. So the funny thing is, our leads did not go down. We're getting as many leads from Zillow as ever with 0 spend.
How does that work?
So I'll probably talk to you off camera about that. Yeah, so that's a big waste. $250,000 a year, just to the bottom line, just like that, and more closings. Equal Zillow closings.
But no fewer Zillow leads.
No fewer Zillow leads.
When did you cut it off?
We cut it off in January, so we've had almost half a year at it now.
Aren't you just going through your Zillow pipeline of leads you already had, though? Do you really know how that's the long-term effect of that is really going to be?
We know what's coming in, so the flow is good.
Well, the flow's still coming in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, off
Tammy?
camera, we got to talk.
Yeah. Just, Jeff, if you have another question, just text them.
Just turn the camera off.
Just Facebook message them.
Hello, LOL, Jeff.
Tammy, go ahead.
It helps a lot to have a strong Zillow presence as far as your numbers of reviews. And we're by far the strongest in our area. So that has helped us a great deal.
So you still show up on your listings, you know that, right? So you're still on there. They see us as very strong, lots of closings and some other things like that. So you don't really know what you'd get without a spend until you cut your spend.
You got to be careful talking about this for your
Thank you, Fred, for being vulnerable.
I didn't really realize how vulnerable that might be.
In retrospect, you're wondering. Okay. Anything else from the from the session that you'd like to share, or any questions for Fred?
The Trello, by the way, we got from the Loken team. You guys do a great job with it, so thanks for telling us about that. Someone on your team discovered it, and that's working really well for us. So you can really manage everything about your whole pipeline from that. It's really valuable.
All right, Brendan. Brendan's new this year. Brendan Bardick is our agent in Denver, and we love Brendan. We love everybody, obviously, but if you haven't met Brendan, just a solid human. And
solid human, thank you.
Love you, brother.
It's my new name tag.
We do have a question from Tammy Waroxa before we move on to Brendan. Go ahead.
Really quick question. You might have said this and I may have missed it, but is your Trello different than your CRM?
Yes, Trello is different from our CRM. So our ISAs work in the CRM. They work in Commissions Inc. But when it becomes a client, then it's in Trello, and it's all handled all the way from appointment clear to closing and past closing. Even after closing, all the tasks are in Trello, all managed in there.
And you can't do that in your CRM?
Nope, not at all. Not in our CRM. We haven't found anything we like nearly as well as Trello. We're just so thankful to know about Trello. So it works great. So the ISA, for instance, they fill out things in Trello. I don't think I can show you because I don't navigate it very well, but they fill out things in Trello like the listing interview before they send a lister out. Then that's all in there. All those notes are in there. It's on the card. Everyone has all that. They don't have to do emails and texting back and forth. It's all conveyed there. And it just kind of moves through the steps from there. That same card just moves on, and everything that needs to be done at each step of the transaction all gets done right within Trello. It's the bomb. I think it's still free, isn't it? There was something about some 10 boards or something, but you can, yeah. So for most of us,
It's
it can
free
be
until May 1st, up to 10 boards.
Yep.
Okay, we have Goran Todorovic, Windsor, Ontario.
Thank you. I use Trello also, but I've been concerned with regarding the security of Trello. What's your thoughts on the security of it?
What kind of information are you putting on Trello?
Well, you know, anything
Favorite
that
color?
any information that has to do with any of my clients, I'm concerned about. So it doesn't matter what I put on it, as long as my client's name and phone number are on there, it's called privacy. So it's not financial information that I'm putting on, but anything with my client's name, identification, address, email, social security number, as you Americans would say, we say social insurance, license, that's all on Trello. I've been using Trello for years. I love it. Security is the only issue that I have.
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
I would recommend with the social security and the IDs to put that in a different cloud, that where you, if you have an IT director to handle that with an added layer of security, just for, I mean, that's a good standpoint that you're mentioning that. However, there are levels of security that Trello does have. I would say that if it has pertains to their financials, to put that in a different, that's what we do. Especially for buyers, before we show them, we ask them a copy of their ID. We would save that to OneDrive. That Lance's director of IT really has that saved, pretty bolted down.
Good question, Goran. Thank you. And Tammy, good question too. Any others? Okay. Brendan Bardick from Denver. Good to have you here, my brother. And we tell us all about your session.
Yeah, so session was great. I've learned a ton since I've been here. I'll just break down, I guess, our systems first. So I'm also in love with Trello, and thanks to Lance for getting us hooked on it and his whole team. They've been instrumental. But yeah, we use it for everything. So Trello, Real Geeks is our CRM. I've been with Real Geeks for probably 10 years and just built out everything through that because it does automatic text campaigns. It does all of our workflow email management. It handles everything and had the integrated IDX that we needed. So, and then we use for, instead of HomeBot, we use a company called Altos. Altos does market reports for us that sends weekly, monthly, or bi-weekly. I see some people nodding, so I'm not the only one. Good. And then direct mail. So we still are a firm believer in direct mail. We're Keller Williams, so 8x8, 33 touch. We have a very robust system that does all that. But are we going to put the flow chart up? Can I talk to the flow chart they were going to, I think, put up? So I think the biggest thing that we are talking about, though, is just systemizing a very complicated process and making it very visual and making sure that people know exactly what to do, how to do it. There's no question about it. You'll see this in every office, cubicle, every wall. We have one for every, not every scenario. I mean, obviously there's one-offs, but so we have buyer, seller. But as you see this, obviously it starts with the phone call. We don't, when you call and the person doesn't answer, we hang up immediately, call back right after that. We found that increased our conversion to pick up a lot more. And then we leave a message, so we don't leave a message on the first call. And then it's just a process. So it's taking them from start to finish. Our whole matrix is built on our biggest KPI is leads processed. So as they were talking about, we know that every 21 leads processed, we close a transaction. So for us, we have quarterly goals and yearly goals for leads processed 100%. So our goal this year for transactions is 418. With it being 418, we just divide that number by, or multiply that number times 21, and that gives us or gave us for the year, this was off of last year's numbers, gave us our gauge for what we need to do every quarter as far as leads processed. So we make that an individual goal for every agent, make sure that they know that, because if we feed the database, nurture the database, and process the database, the deals will come. We know that. So we just think about it the same. It's just a big, machine, and we're filling it with dirt, and whoever has that better machine is going to spit out more gold at the bottom. And we're just trying to make sure our machine is flawless, or close to. But we fail every day, and we're trying, we're fixing things, beta testing things, running different text campaigns, fail fast, fail forward. I don't know if I said that right, something like that. Yeah, that's what we do.
Nice.
Oh, and then I guess on speed to lead. So we use CallFire. CallFire, when the initial call or contact comes in, it rings all of our ISAs first. If they don't answer within 3 dials, it goes over to the agents. Our agents, we've also kept our agents on for after hours and on weekends instead of having virtual assistants. We allow the agents to be on that on-call program that were the top 6 agents from the previous week, top 3 who put the most under contract, and then the other top 3 for whoever put the most leads and processed the most leads 100% in the system. So we did that because if you just did under contracts, the same people were just killing it all the time. And so we found that balance has worked. Everything's visual. Brett Tanner down in Arizona, we stole his board where everything's red, green, and yellow. So our agents know if they're on the visual board, if they're in yellow or red, and they consistently stay there, they are no longer with our organization after a certain period of time. So the goal is to stay in green. I'm a firm believer of top grading. We're constantly trying to push the envelope of talent, and that's what we do.
Very nice. Lisa's wondering if you guys can get copies. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Please. Yeah, I'll put them on there.
Upload to the Facebook page. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Secure enough for you, Goran? We'll put it up on the. I hear you.
On our old leads, I love everybody's different systems, Shark Tank, The Pond, all these things I've learned. We just call them reassigns. And so we realized that instead of letting them go to a pool, we had to be very careful with spoon feeding them and making the requirement of how many you gave them. As of this morning, we have 21,762 leads in our database. And so when they are done classifying them, you can see they're on the not contacted cold. And when we get to these cold leads, all of our new agents come in, and of course, that's where they live. And we used to be like, well, here's 500 of them. And when that didn't work, right? Because they would just, get overwhelmed. So now it's just, we found that depending on new agent versus old agent or hungry agent versus agent that's super busy, we'll give them out 10 at a time, 15 at a time, and then we go back, though, just for accountability and make sure. The other thing with the lead pool is we can measure everything in Real Geeks by how many views, how many property views people have had, how their active date the last time they were just on our site. So we'll take that whole database, gauge it, run it so we can see who's, in our opinion, warm or at least alive. I'm sure you guys know, when you look at people, we have people that have looked at 4,000 properties on our website, can't get them on the phone, never talked to them once, right? And we're like, we can't believe you're here every day using our site, and you won't talk to us. But we know if we focus on that people, we will break them, right? We will find you, and we will figure out. It's a long-term play, right? And you'll hear it like we were talking about with the gong and all that. So the F system, so F just stands for follow-up. So we'll F1, F2, F3, F4, F6. On the 7th day, we rest. And then from there, they go into a NC monthly or NC weekly, and we burn those through Mojo. The nice thing that we integrated with Mojo was, it's similar to Zapier, and I'm old school Zapier, I love Zapier as well. but all of our Mojo leads go into Real Geeks and back and forth. Because that was the big problem we had an issue with, was dialer versus integration going back and forth. So that made life a lot smoother and less complaints. It was just any way we could remove an agent or an ISA having an excuse for something. And we just looked at those bottlenecks and said, okay, we fixed that. Okay, what's next? Okay, we fixed that. And we still have a long way to go, but that's what we're doing.
Great. Questions? Comments? We good? Okay. All right. Let's go down the road to our dear friend Joe Manassa, who has maybe the coolest URL in the country. You haven't heard the radio ads. manausa.com.
There you go.
It's pretty cool. Sounds great. Anyway, tell us about your session and some of the things you're doing for lead conversion.
We went old school this year. We went back and really wanted to focus on accountability systems and making sure we were doing a better job getting in touch with our leads. The one thing you learn when you get involved with RAID is you generate a lot of leads. And I feel like over the last couple of years, our conversion numbers were dropping because we were getting more leads. And what I wanted to do was come up with a methodology that would allow us to squeeze the most out of the leads that we were generating. And so it went a couple routes, and it started first with culture. And we have a culture at our company that from 9 to 11 in the morning, you're on the phone and you're prospecting. You're not following up with your current buyers. You're not talking to your current sellers. You're not running out on inspections. You're not having closings. You're on the phone, you're prospecting. And that was something we had gotten away from. I think we started our ISA program about 2 years ago, and I think it subconsciously created a mindset among the buyer team members, the listing team members, that, you know, the ISAs handle prospecting. And that is not the culture of our company. We know that if we prospect every day, we'll have closings every day. And so we've got the 9 to 11 block in the morning. Number one, that is everybody's job, and there is no exception to the rule. Okay, and most companies run off of the exception to the rule. We run off the rule, and the rule is you prospect from 9 to 11. So if you're not going to be prospecting from 9 to 11, we need to know who died. We need to know what significant life event took you away from that, because it can't be a real estate event. It has to be a significant life event. And we do have exceptions to the rule, and an exception to the rule happens quarterly, maybe happens every 4 or 5 months. Doesn't happen daily, doesn't happen weekly. It is an exception to the rule. So that was number one, was creating the culture that we're on the phone from 9 to 11. Number two is we have public display of accountability now. We have monitors set up, and everybody's numbers for the last 7 days are up there. And we also publish trend lines for how the team's performance is going on touches. And what a touch is to me is it's either you've emailed somebody, you've called them, or you've texted them. So we have all three of those things being measured, and then collectively, the fourth category we call touches. And what we're looking for is to increase our touch average every day. And right now, we're touching about 4 times the number of people every day than we were just 3 months ago. And I know that ultimately, that's going to decide how much business we do, is how many people we're touching every day. And so creating simple systems where agents didn't have to report what they were doing, and yet we would know what they were doing, that was my number one target. And what we did is we used a new rule of if it isn't in the CRM, it didn't happen. So you call 20 people on your mobile phone and it's not in the CRM, you didn't call 20 people. Okay, so if it's in the CRM, it happened. If it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen. So all of our reports are just what's going on in the CRM. And we have, so you combine the cultural change of 9 to 11 is fixed for prospecting, and then it didn't happen if it's not in the CRM. We now have an accountability process with graphs and trend lines, and it's very clear to see who's doing the most prospecting, and it's very clear to see who's doing the least prospecting. And I think that's probably the greatest impact for seeing our conversion rate increase.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe on that? Vince Carter, over here. Here comes Lana.
Is that exclusively phone calls, or can you text, Facebook message during that prospecting time?
It is all the touch forms. So what I'm wanting each one of my team members to burn through 30 to 40 touches an hour. Okay, and if you're making just phone calls, you're not going to talk to 40 people an hour, even if you're using some of the higher tech telephone tools. And so what I'm wanting them to do is zero mass emails, zero mass texting. I want case by case, eyeball on the lead, and sending them the appropriate follow-up. Typically, they'll dial a phone and they'll put together a text at the exact same time. And once the phone isn't picked up in 2 rings, they launch a text and they move on to the next one.
Thank you.
Brian Birds, El Paso.
This has been massive for us. We call ours a 0 to 60, 9 to 11 every morning. And I'm at a production now, and I'm on there. I get in the bullpen. I do my phone calls, and as I get a lead that wants to book an appointment, I pass it off to whoever showed up earliest. And, I mean, they get excited because they know that I'm following through on it. And believe me, it's hard to dedicate that 9 to 11 for me, but it's game changed. I mean, we cut our Zillow spend to 0.2, and that felt amazing. 92,000. It wasn't 200,000, but 92,000 back in pocket. But it's all based on going back after the basics. But that's been huge for us. What's 0 to 60? 0 to 60. I mean, the goal is 60 solid contacts, and yeah. And if anybody proves that they hit 60 solid contacts in 2 hours, I'll pay them $1,000 on the spot. But when I say solid contacts, I want actual contacts.
All right, Amy, Kite.
Joe, what are you tracking on the monitors? What are the trends?
For me, I want to see this week. I want to see this month. I want to see this quarter. I want to see 6 month, and I want to see a 1 year. So I've got 5 trend lines running because the annual trend will show you no seasonality. Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? The trouble with that is that you can't correct a 1 year trend. You can only do something right now. And so I like to see every single day's raw numbers. So I have multiple dashboards. And I like to see every day's raw numbers by individual. And then I just go to my team leaders and I go, hey, look at that. Your team's doing 1/3 the number of contacts as the other team's doing. How's that going to work out for you? I use Follow Up Boss, and then getting the numbers out of Follow Up Boss is a pain in the butt. It's literally copy and paste into a Google Sheet. But I've created some pretty intricate Google Sheets that now report through an app called Cyfe, C-Y-F-E. It's very inexpensive, and you can create 1 million dashboards with 1 million different metrics on it. And what I have found is that if I can put a visual up in front of my team leaders, and they get to see the other teams, and then the individuals get to see the other individuals, that's really all the accountability I need because I've got good competitive people.
How many teams?
I've got 1 buyer team of just 5 right now, 1 seller team of 5 right now. I've got 4 ISAs and 3 in marketing.
So when they look at those graphs, what's the culture between the teams? What are they doing to rev each other up? How's a team leader getting their team to perform better?
They're all very competitive people. The numbers speak for themselves. It's almost like football and there's a scoreboard. I mean, the key is getting and hiring competitive people and then making sure results are always within their visual. But I mean, those 10 agents will close a little over 400 and something sides this year. So 40 per person isn't bad numbers, but there's probably 3 times the amount of business out there that we're pulling in from all our ad spend.
Yeah. You scare me just standing here. Is there any fun happening? Is it a fun culture or is it like...
They will have fun and they'll like it, yes.
All right. Okay. All right.
Hey, and thanks, Joe, back here. Thanks for being here, because now I'm not the only asshole in the
group. Any other questions? Ron Wysikarsky. Get right to you, Ed.
Hey, Joe, good stuff. I'm not sure they're aware of your system on salary and their cars. Could you just share a little bit about that? Because it's very unique.
Yeah, I don't have independent contractors. I owned a Remax for 5 years, a Century 21 for 10 years. I don't like dealing with independent contractors. From what I hear inside this group, y'all are doing great things. But one common theme is, how are we going to get our agents to do that? Well, I have found if you pay really good salaries, you give benefits, you give cars, you're providing something they don't want to lose. So you just tell them to do it. And they're good employees, just like you would find at other companies with good employees, and they do their job. And so I just have a little different model, but I mean, I have a lot of the similar issues that y'all have. It's all about how do you get the whole cycle of the sale happening every single day? How do you reach out and touch people? At the same time, how do you service the people that you have? How do you get through the closing issues? How do you get your marketing in control and then make sure you're following up? So we all have the same issues. I just go about it with a salaried team approach as opposed to independent contractor approach. Okay, salary, commission splits. I get 100, they get 0. No transactional compensation, 0. I get the kind of people that are motivated at team level. They exist all over, typically not in real estate.
Dara Walden.
Yeah, I have a question for the person over there that said also that they gave up their Zillow. How did that affect your leads? I know Fred said it didn't on his, but how did it affect your leads? Because I kind of think Zillow is like heroin. Once you get on it, it's really hard to get off of it.
Brian, how did you break the habit?
I don't have an addictive personality, I guess, but it came down to, I don't know that we tracked through Zillow as much, but we went after the old traditional, the relationship-based, the calling every day. You call a person 10, 12 times over the course of a year, they're going to become your friend. So going back to the old, the basics. So I don't know that I'm sitting next to somebody. I'm going to start pesting her in a second to find out how she's still getting the same amount of Zillow leads off camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to find that out, but I know we're not. I would say we're not the same on Zillow spend leads. So we're not getting the same amount from Zillow, but we're getting it in other varying points. And as our lead count went down, our conversion, our contracts went up. I mean, for the first year, I'm excited. We're on track for doubling last year's business. So
I can imagine it seems like a hard habit to break, though. I get it. Does that answer your question, Dar?
Dar, here,
Okay.
and for anybody else, can I just add for that?
Go ahead, sir.
Very similar to that?
Yeah.
Is just look at how many appointments you're setting per week on Zillow. So with us, with all that spend, we were only setting 2 appointments a week. And we looked at that and thought, if we get nothing ever again from Zillow, we can find somehow to set 2 appointments a week. And we just did it.
Good to know that number. Okay, Amy Wienans.
Joe, I like your idea. How much are you paying them for salaries?
That's relative to where you are. And so I'll put it in terms of what's the median household income. That's pretty much what my starting is. My starting salary is the local median household income. My team leaders make about 3 times that amount, and then everybody typically falls in the middle. We do offer a profit share program, but it's at team level. So nobody on a team is going to participate in profit share, or everybody is. And then I have qualitative as well as quantitative elements of the profit share. One of them is the number of 5-star reviews they get per closing. Another is the usage of our third-party services, our title, mortgage, things like that. So we measure a lot of the elements of the sale, and the things that support profitability go into the profit share calculations. I give them cars. I've got a fleet of wrapped, obnoxious cars with my ugly face on them, and the people that work with us are pretty loyal. They haven't been scared away by the pictures, so we're pretty happy.
And I just wanted to talk to the culture fun part. So one of the things with lead conversion that I think is critical is role play. So role play is a staple in our culture. In our office, we have live daily role play every day from 12 to 12:30. Every day is a different theme. So Mondays are more appointment Mondays, Tuesday are technical Tuesdays, so on and so forth. On Thursdays, we do a game show. So 2 agents sit in front of our office with their backs to the entire team, and we fire off objection handlers at them. And we have a scoreboard. They get score. We have a prize wheel. So every Thursday, and we videotape this. It's helped us with recruiting, retention. People love it. They go nuts for it. In March, we did a fantasy bracket. So we had a final bracket, and then the winners got we're KW, so winners got a trip to make a camp and family reunion. Oh. Hello? You want me to say that all again? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I think it's the fun culture and just making sure that you're training. If conversion's really the big deal, you have to get people better at being on the phone and closing and setting appointments. And I think that was a huge breakthrough for us, is just we didn't understand. And with CallFire, it's recording our calls, so we also live play those. And it was shocking on a basic sign call how much we thought people were doing it right, and they're not. Right, they're freezing up, and then you play it in front of everybody, and they can't hide from it. So they don't want to be on that live call again in front of the whole team, and they get better, right? So it's just like they said, inspect what you expect.
Joe, admit it, you guys have fun sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, okay. I believe you. Vince Carter.
So I've heard people talk about hiring the motivated, use a different terminology, the competitive. I'm curious from everyone, because everybody's going to show up and say, I'm the most motivated, competitive person you've ever met in the interview, and everybody's awesome, puts their best foot forward. But how do you test that to see who's really competitive before you bring them in your door?
Results of the past are very indicative of the results of the future. When I look and interview somebody, I want to see a pattern of success. And I want to see them very active in something, including school. I want to see, I don't care if I'm hiring a 50-year-old. I'm going to say, tell me about your high school days. What did you do? I want to see someone. I'm not hiring the same type of person y'all are. Y'all are hiring people that need to be independent, need to be able to do a lot of things on their own and self-motivate. I'm hiring a team member. I'm like a football coach trying to hire a left tackle. I'm hiring a nose guard. I'm hiring a linebacker. I'm hiring a quarterback. I know specifically what I'm hiring, and I want to see a pattern of them succeeding in a team environment. Okay? And I know that if they have had 7 different jobs in the last 10 years, that's not the person I'm looking for. The person I'm looking for is going to be with me the next 15, 20 years. And I'm not going to turn someone into a great person. They're going to be a great person before I hire them. They're just going to be a great person on my team. Okay, so the past is going to tell you really what you need to know about their future. And a lot of times, because we're all salespeople, we talk ourselves into hiring someone because it solves your problem. And once I hire them, I don't need to hire someone, so that solves my problem. But the fact is, if you hire a loser, you are going to have a loser on your team. If you hire a winner, you're going to have a winner on your team. So make sure when you're going through their resume, you're just looking for winners. I mean, as simple as it sounds, that's what you're doing. And it's hard to find the winners. That's the hard part of it.
Yeah, in every case, right, ask for proof, not promises.
Vince, I've got one aspect of there's one aspect of that disc that talks about competitiveness. So we use WiseHire and the economic drive. If economic is below 60, they don't get an interview with us. And the second one, I'll give you my minimums on DISC to get the interview. And then even if they pass that, right, they still have to do what Joe was saying. They have to have a track record of success. But for us, if the D is below 30, they don't get an interview. If the I is below 50, we don't interview. Economic below 60, and then political below 50. And political is leadership. So those are just our minimums. If somebody passes those 4 minimums, we then look at the resume and then decide if we want to bring them in. And if we bring them in, then we're looking for what Joe was saying, which is, did you perform at a really high level, and can you demonstrate that you did? So And then sometimes you still make mistakes.
Yeah, and we do similar. We do a process called career visioning with your KW and DISC profile, and then a KPA, and we get all the analysis. But the biggest one that we found was the life history. So you get a whiteboard, and you do this in the interview, and you tell them to start from the first major event that they ever had in their life that they think impacted their life. And then you start going through all these things. And so you'll start, well, I graduated high school. Okay, well, how did that impact you? I did this. And what we're looking for in that life history is to see if there was anything they had to overcome. Was there time, I heard people saying grind, the other day. Was there something they had to, a challenge, this, that? We're also looking for the same thing if they had 45 jobs, obviously that's a concern, or certain traits in that. The one question that I think is the easiest one is, why do you want to sell houses, right? And immediately you'll hear people either go one of two ways. Well, I just really want to help people, right? And I love people, and I love houses. They're pretty, and I like showing houses. And the other people are like, I want to get rich, right? And I'm always like, they might not say get rich, but they're like, I want to make a lot of money. I want to get after it. I want to change my life. I want to pay for my kids. I want to do this. So I think that's just listening to what they're saying. I'm not looking for people that, want to, and I don't mean to sound bad, help people, but I want them to help them, but I want them to get rich doing it. So,
Jordan?
Do any of you guys live audition people who are applying for the job? Like our coaches said, hey, they're applying for an ISA job. Get them on the phones before you ever even go through. We're Keller Williams, so career visioning process. Yeah,
we don't live audition them. We do live role play in the interview. And we found, we give them the expired script, and regardless of the role, even our TCs, everybody, and even though those are high S's and high C's, we know they're going to be interacting with our clients, and if they can't get through a basic script, or they freeze up, or they start freaking out, I'm like, this is going to be hard. It's a simple intelligence test for us.
Beautiful.
We
Give it
have
up
an
for these
ISA
guys. We
that-
got to wrap it up here. Sorry, Jordan. We got to get this going. So thank you. Give it up for Joe and Brendan and Fred and Matt and Christina. Thank you so much. And now, Matt, would you come back up? And thank you all for your input as well. Great questions and a very, again, productive session here this morning. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, give it up for Dave as the moderator. Again. Thanks, guys. We appreciate all the insight. Everybody was focused, and you're doing great for this early in the morning. So go get a break. Be back here sharp at 10:30. You will not want to miss this next presentation. So take a break. Go visit Matterport if you get a second. They're one of our proud